welcome to Calling the Audible Division 4. I'm your host, Jim Colethris. With me, as always, still fun to say, as always, Alex Halwack.
Well, as always, glad to be here. Glad to be back for another week.
Yeah, the novelty never gets old for me. It's just so much fun.
It hasn't worn off yet.
Yeah, speaking of things that have worn out quickly, Eagles welcome.
Including my patience.
Yep, absolutely. We can add that to the list. Our technical difficulties have worn out. With less and less.
Our soundboard has worn out.
Yeah. What doesn't wear out? Sportira jerseys. We're in the Sportira.
They are very durable.
So plugging Sportira here. As always, if you want to tweet us in, your best bet is at EagleFPF, even though you have at Alex Holwack1, at GMCole44. But at EagleFPF is your main source of tweeting in, or you can use the live YouTube chat function.
It's almost like you know how to do this.
Yeah, I like that. Did you have a good week?
It's been a week.
It's been a week.
Did you
have a good week?
I did, actually. And, before we get into football tonight, I wanted to bring up a little factoid for all NBA fans out there. So last night, Russell Wilson passed Larry Bird for 5th all-time.
Russell Westbrook?
Russell Westbrook. Thank you for correcting me.
No problem.
Passed Larry Bird for 5th all-time in terms of career triple-doubles, was 60. All right? And this is his 23rd on the season so far in 46 games. And to anybody who follows the NBA action, it's ludicrous how this guy is not starting in the Western Conference All-Star starting lineup, being replaced instead by Seth Curry, who's not even the leading scorer on his team. So, just throwing that out there for anybody who's indulges in a little basketball this time of night.
It's absolutely shocking that I know nothing what you just said.
I wouldn't expect you to.
You're in good company. So we move on to FPF. Backyard Bullies edge out the Golden Flashes 25-18. Tell us a little bit about this game.
Yeah, so it was actually a closer game than many might have anticipated. The Backyard Bullies were coming in like a steam engine, and they met the Golden Flashes defense, which has been formidable through 3 weeks so far. They pulled out the win in the end. What we take away from this one so far is the lack of offense on the Golden Flashes side of the ball.
Do you think? Sorry, go ahead. Do you think that this has to do with the quarterback switch from Yannick Dostin to Cedric Knuckle? Does it play a part?
I look at it in terms of which player makes the team better at that respective position, right? If we look at the Golden Flashes from last year's winter Div 4B season, they went 5-5. Yannick Dostin put up 1,720 yards with 41 total touchdowns and 10 interceptions, right? And they lost games against the Mud Dogs, the U, and the Longhorns, some of the best teams in the division. Yeah. This year, they sit at 1-2 so far. Cedric Knuckle is projecting for 1,590 combined yards with 30 total touchdowns and 7 INTs. So if Knuckle can improve on his TD total per game, I think it'll become evident that Dostin was the better choice at quarterback by the end of the year. And that's not to say of the possibility of Knuckle playing on this team in a receiver's role rather than a quarterback. So it's something that's going to play out throughout the season. But so far, it's been a slow start for the Golden Flashes.
So it's been a slow start. They currently sit, despite being 1-2, they have a plus-minus of +3. So yeah, absolutely. So how do they close out these games then? If these losses are in such close games, you mentioned this one was closer than expected.
Yeah. Well, they've played tough teams so far as well, right? They've come close in a couple of games. And if you look forward to the next couple of games on their schedule, they have some tough ones coming up ahead again. So they're going to have to learn quickly how to close out these close games. I don't know if Knuckle has the experience at quarterback. He's certainly one of the most fierce competitors in the entire division, a feared receiver and defender in divisions 4 and 3 with the Mongoose, and one of the premier talents overall. But he's lacking that little kind of experience at the quarterback position,
which not a natural quarterback,
which often translates into a win or loss in these kind of close fought games. So to speak to your point, yeah, he's not a natural quarterback, and it's showing so far. So
on the flip side, though, you said coming into this game like a freight train, the widest margin of plus-minus in 4A right now is the Backyard Bullies. They have a plus-minus right now of 61. Is it time to start paying attention?
Well, not to toot my own horn, but I had them ranked second overall in preseason rankings, and so far it's played out accordingly, right? This team is loaded from top to bottom in terms of talent. They have the fiercest defense in the entire division, and right now they have the best quarterback so far. I would say that he's in the top 2, certainly, and so far he looks like the best guy in the division. So the only question right now is if ranking them second was actually too low. And once again, we'll see as the season progresses.
So the next game on the docket, this was a fun little surprise as well. Big TD's 34, Eskimo Brothers 26. Tom Cesari's first win since February 2011. Granted, he hasn't played the season since then, but it's still nice to see someone shaking off the rest and doing well.
Exactly. I looked it up after you had mentioned it, and it's actually his first win since the Big TDs beat the Trojans in Division 3 of Winter 2011.
Not a scrub team either, by the way. That was
at all.
a semi-final team in 2011.
And, he deserves credit. He spread the ball out with his talented receiving core, and he exploited the lack of depth on the Eskimo Brothers' defense. He put up 178 yards with 5 TDs, and that's nothing to scoff at in this division.
So, what's happening to the Eskimo Brothers, though, at the same time? They were solid in Division C this spring. They return with pretty much a similar roster. Same core of guys, same dynamic, and they're just not making it work. What's the issue?
So for me, the Eskimo Brothers always comes down to quarterback Zach Stakowski. He's coming off a career year in Division C where he put up 42 yards and 1,700 plus, 42 touchdowns and 1,700 plus yards. But I think what really happened here is that his confidence got hurt after the shell-shocking loss they took in Week 1 versus the Backyard Bullies, where he completed 5 passes and only 1 touchdown. Sometimes, like a boxer, they get clobbered. That takes a while to overcome, especially in terms of confidence and your emotional state. So I think he's slowly building his way back, but we still see the remnants of that huge trouncing they took in Week 1.
The scars and the bruises are still present.
Exactly. I think that may be the case so far because they've been slow out of the gate.
Any advice on how to change it?
They have to keep, they're feeding Steen the ball. He's their premier talent. But the thing about Eskimo Brothers is that they have to, find that the sum of their parts has to be greater than their collective whole, right? They have a decent supporting cast, but they've always found ways to put everyone in a role where they've thrived in the past. And I think they have to tap into their supporting cast a little bit more going forward, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, otherwise, especially on the defensive side, you're only as good as your weakest link.
Exactly.
Bad Case 18, 5-star put up 39 points against Bad Case. Ugly game. But congrats on 5-star for getting that first win. Simon had a bad showing in Division 3, and I guess it carried down to Division 4 as well.
No disrespect to Simon, it happens to the best of us, right? You can have a tough week. But for 5-star, I'm actually happy and proud to see the boys achieve this week. This win means everything for them, right? They called it out after last week's loss to us that they were going to kind of pull things together and start getting on the winning track, and they did it. The talent was...
You guys are like that ex that dumps them, and they're like, okay, this is now we just got to get our shit together. We got to clean up.
You know what I think
turn
it is?
Around.
With guys like Dylan Daou, Jeremy Anderson, Jordan Moses, experienced players in FPF, they may have come into the season underestimating the talent a bit in this given division since they do play in higher ones. And then, Jordan hasn't played quarterback in a season. It might have been a little bit of rust, and they took some lumps to begin with, So they said, guys, it's time to stop fooling around. Let's put it together, and that's what they did. Before, the talent was always there, the chemistry wasn't. Now they're just rolling on all cylinders.
Can either team, considering they're both at a 1-2 record right now, can either team sneak into the playoffs?
Yeah, definitely. 5-star can. Like I said, the talent on this roster speaks to itself. And this week they were whole for the first time. They had the defenders Sasha and Tyson back, which are depth pieces, which is part of the traditional 5-star core that has thrived in the past. So they got their players back in their respective roles, and they got the win convincingly versus Bad Case. In terms of Bad Case, it's going to be tough for them. They have tough games over the next 6. I'll list them out right now. Junkyard Dogs, Frosty Bronsons, Backyard Bullies, Eskimo Brothers, Big TDs, and Les Malouds. There's no easy outs to speak of on this schedule, and they've struggled a bit in the first 3. So we'll see if they can turn it around. Hopefully they can for the good. They can right the ship, but it's looking a little bit doubtful right now.
So the last recap in 4A, it's always fun to talk about our own teams when we've lost, because... This is your opportunity to kick your own team when you're down. Junkyard Dogs beat out Frosty Bronsons 37-19. I found it really interesting, by the way, that in the game where the Frosty Bronsons and especially James, distributed the ball so evenly, rather than just being slanted towards 1 or 2 receivers, the ball was spread evenly, and you guys came out with a loss, which is odd.
Well, before addressing the topic and going in depth, I just want to say that I'm not an overly proud or vengeful guy. You know, last week I sat here and I said that we were going to beat the Junkyard Dogs, and I got I got served a piece of humble pie in this game. The Junkyard Dogs are for real. This team is the recent acquisitions they made of Rob White, and I forget his name. Jacob Burnett, exactly. It just adds so much depth to their defense. You have a back three of Hugo Alamando, Robert White, and Jacob Burnett, which is very tough to pierce, right, if you're looking for deep stabs. And then they have Rossi and the two Rossi brothers kind of smashing the flats up front. So the defense is extremely tough.
Yavar as well.
Yeah, always underrated Yavar. And so there's the Junkyard Dogs look formidable in this matchup, and I give them all the credit. Hugo Alamando is a force to be reckoned with on offense, especially in the red zone. He's got everything you look for. He's got size, he's got athleticism, he's got hands. He's going to be difficult to stop. And the other Rossi, Jordan Rossi, the unheralded one, was actually a major surprise in this game. He was everywhere in the flats, and he caught a couple of big plays on offense as well. So kudos to the Junkyard Dogs, and I think there's a bright season ahead for you guys. In terms of Frosty Bronson, I think what happened was the distribution was more a product of us falling behind and kind of implementing different players at some point. We kind of threw in the towel 3/4 of the way through this game, and we said now's a good chance to kind of get everyone some playing time. We might need these guys in certain roles later in the season. So we told James, spread it out, work some new things, and we did that on defense as well.
So our transition topic for this week is actually we're talking about the sort of tiers of teams and the divide between the top and the bottom. We'll examine it in both 4A and 4B, but I split up the teams in according to their records. So the 3-0 teams, the 2-1 teams, the 1-2 teams, and the 0-3 teams.
No ties.
No ties, thankfully. There is one in 4B, but
do they get a category all by themselves?
No, I'm counting as a tie as a loss. So when we will get to that, but for right now, I just wanted to go over and just examine from the eye test who's better than the record indicates, who's worse than the record indicates, like pretenders. Just give me your opinions on who fits and who doesn't in this. So the 3-0 teams that sit right now, they're still teamless. Backyard Bullies, Flying Weasels, the Commission, and the Tide.
So it's funny because you mentioned to me before the podcast started that the way it played out in 4A is that the teams fall almost identically into the tiers that we would have projected before the season began. Mm-hmm. And I think this is very much the case. I think if anyone's a surprise in that first tier right now, it's definitely the Flying Weasels.
I'll let you go, and then
this is my point, right? They have 79 points for in 3 games, which is not a lot. And they haven't exactly played against the cream of the crop so far in this division, although they do have experienced pieces and they have a very cohesive unit on defense. I think if there's one team that may slip at some point in the season on this list into the second tier, it might be them.
Okay, that is right.
What do you think?
My only counterpoint is that this team, the Flying Weasels, this is what they thrive on. They like to wait in the wings. They're a cohesive unit, like you said. Danny Ostigi, Jonathan Lemieux, just spreading that ball around. Matt Domo, Etienne Guillemay. These are all premier guys who you can take into from one position to another. They adjust really, really well to their opponents. They slow down the pace of the game. They can turn it up when need be. I think that they're the perfect example of a team that's just quiet. They speak softly and they carry a big stick.
That's very fair. And to be honest, the other teams I'm far more familiar with, so it could just be the case of me underrating the Flying Weasels. 3-0 team. Let's see how far they can take it.
So the next tier of the 2-1 teams, Junkyard Dogs, Frosty Bronsons, Les Malouds, the Nobodies, 69ers, and Top Season. There's a couple of these that we've mentioned that are very, very strong. You just talked about the Junkyard Dogs.
Yeah.
Who here do you see more falling a little bit and could drop towards that next lower tier?
Well, in terms of falling, definitely the Nobodies. I'm not convinced that Nick Sarro is a top-notch quarterback talent in this division. He's an extremely talented receiver and an admirable defender, but in terms of QB, I don't think he's proven the test yet. I think everyone else here belongs on this list, if not higher. Top Seasons definitely can be considered one of those top-tier teams after what they've shown in the first 3 weeks. Extremely impressive.
And even just a 2-point loss.
Pardon?
Top season lost by 2 points. Exactly. So
against the team that we have as the top ranked team so far in the season. So I think the other interesting team on this list is Les Malouds, because in 3 games they've had 3 different quarterbacks, right, play the position, and yet they've emerged 2-1, and they have an extremely tough defense, which is pulling out close fought games. So they might even be that other team that sneaks into the top tier once they get some stability at that quarterback position.
Okay. The 1 and 2 teams right now, so this is a little bit deeper. You've got 5-star, Bad Case, Golden Flashes, Big TDs, Eskimo Brothers, Gotham Knights, No Name, MV, and Zoo. Are there any that sort of separate themselves as ready to make that jump, or could even are in danger of falling?
Well, we mentioned it just prior, but 5-star is definitely trending upwards right now, and Bad Case is trending down. Other than that, I think that Golden Flashes, Big TDs, Eskimo Brothers are all rated fairly. I think Gotham Knights are one of those middle-tier teams in this division, which might find themselves right in between of these 2 adjacent tiers that we just mentioned. And I think the real surprise team here is going to be MVE. Like, they're a team that's been combative each week, even if they've had some of the top opponents so far this season. And it's just an extremely high-powered offense at this point. Nobody has yet found the formula to stop Vincent Lauzon. He already has over 300 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns in only 3 games, and he's just breezing through the competition right now. So MVE is another team to look out for in this tier.
Yeah, I definitely agree with your 2 standouts. Putting Gotham Knights in sort of that tier between the 2 puts them in the perfect spot.
They just feel like a 5-5 team.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
It's going to sneak into the defense, into the playoffs, and be a tough opponent to whoever they draw in the first round.
That's what the point I was going to make is that, like, oftentimes that's all you need to really be a dark horse contender and sneak into the playoffs and then wreak havoc from there.
Exactly.
The rough teams right now who are struggling at 0-3, Damps 25-8, Nona Sauce, Aztec Sasquatches, past our prime.
Well,
do these really surprise you? We talked about the struggles that past our prime have had in quarterbacking coming out of the gate. I guess from preseason it's a surprise, but are there any other real standouts?
I think the 2, because once we found out that past our prime wasn't going to have quarterback Craig O'Brien for the entire season, we immediately kind of wrote them off into the lower tier, simply because he's such a phenomenal talent and a game-changing player at that position. But I think the real surprises are the Dams 25-8 and the Aztec Sasquatches here. 2 of the bigger flops so far in this division. The Dams have Division 2 experience. We projected them to come in and basically translate immediately to success. And the Aztec Sasquatches were just so hyped up before the season began. And
with that much depth,
they were all we heard about was this CIS quarterback James Goulet, who hasn't at all translated to the FPF game yet in 3 matches so far. And they are the 2 teams, because of their preseason projected rankings, which have the toughest schedules going forward. So to start 0-3 and have those kind of schedules, which they do, it looks very daunting for those 2 teams. Whereas the other 2 teams are just kind of lacking some identity right now, and maybe they can find that at some point along the way.
Solid. So we're going to go right into the predictions right now. 69ers against the Zoo. How do you see this playing out?
So give me the 69ers, the high-powered 69 offense with the Harbor to Demetrio connection in this one.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that this is one of those games where what works well for the 69ers will especially be there. Those flies down the sidelines, Shea Harbor just using his feet to buy some time as well, and then just chucking it up. I really like them for this as well. Big TDs against Golden Flashes.
So I think in this one, the Golden Flash's tough-nosed defense prevails and stymies Tom Cesari's bid for back-to-back strong games.
MV against the Tide.
Okay. So this is going to be, I'm going to take the Tide in a battle of 2 scrambling QBs with cannon arms. MVE are kind of like the Tide light version, and no one has been able to stop Vincent Lauzon yet, so they always have a puncher's chance, but I'll still take the Tide to reign supreme in this one.
What do Nona Sauce need to do in order to beat Backyard Bullies?
They just have to, change the recipe. Like, there's no other way of putting it. The Backyard Bullies big time in this one.
Okay.
Slash their tires.
Oh!
Don't actually slash their tires.
We do not advocate this here at FPF. Flying Weasels against the Eskimo Brothers.
So this is going to be, this is a coin flip, right? How can you pick other of these teams right now. I think the Flying Weasels, like I've already underestimated them at one point on this show, so I'm going to take them to come out.
So this is their way to show you that they're the real deal.
Well, it'll do a dent, right? I respect the Eskimo brothers. This is a long-standing FPF franchise. Although they struggled all the gates so far, they're always capable of emerging on any given week. So I'd like to see the Flying Weasels handle them in this one, and I'll take the Flying Weasels also.
What can Pastar Prime do to make it a fight against Top Season?
I'm sorry, Pastar Prime. I love you guys, but there's absolutely nothing you can do versus Top Season this week. There's too fast, too athletic, too big, and too young to match up against right here.
If the thought is to continue with JF Leclerc.
By the way, sorry to interrupt. Congratulations to Craig O'Brien, who received his second daughter into the world this week. So super cool to hear that, Craig. And if you want to come back and sling the rock this week, everyone will appreciate
be very happy with that. I think that even with O'Brien out, even the switch, maybe moving JF Leclerc to receiver and putting Aggie at quarterback. We know from playing in the K that Aggie is a more than capable quarterback. I think he'd do fairly well in Division 4, and it's definitely food for thought that you went elsewhere looking for quarterbacks when you had the potential for one there.
Can we get the proper pronunciation of the last name?
Kalidopoulos?
There we go.
That was easy for Jim. You gotta give him a tough one.
Lost my train of thought. Demps 25-8 against 5-star.
I'll take 5-star Thriving right now to go for their second win and to get back to 500 in this one. Which brings us to...
I think I know what this one is.
Yeah, it is. We're playing each other.
So Frosty Bronsons versus Still Teamless. Jay, let me turn the table on you right now. What do you think is going to happen in this game?
What do I think is going to happen? I think that Still Teamless are very well poised and match up well against Frosty Bronsons. They have a strong, capable rusher in Justin. Justin McLean matches up against most of the DBs on Frosty, and it also kind of helps that Lonnie and I have insight into the Frosty Bronson playbook.
So all very valid points. We're definitely game planning for Justin McLean. He's tough as nails to handle from a defensive strategy standpoint. I will mention that we did not have Danny Damore this past week as he had an ankle injury. He will be back patrolling the deep middle of the field. And we know Lonnie likes to put the ball up. Yeah. For McLean, there's going to be some baiting involved, that's for sure. In terms of knowing the Frosty offensive playbook, definitely something else that we discussed. There's going to have to be some ripples in there, some new things that maybe we're not completely comfortable with, but that we have confidence in James pulling out.
Hey, go big or go home, right?
Exactly. So this is definitely going to be an interesting affair.
So we'll talk about this next week.
So I don't know if you guys know or if you've managed to catch, even for the viewers from our Division 3 show, but we've recently introduced a bag of props, or more like a box of props or something. Do we want a friendly wager on this of whichever team wins, that person gets to dress the other person in props for next week's show?
I'd rather wager like a pitcher on this or something.
Porque no los dos?
You good for a pitcher of beer?
I'm good for a pitcher of beer, of course.
Done deal.
But for the sake of the show, if you'd like to do something else, I'm down with that also. I see a beautiful dress and a hat over there.
You were ready to put on that hat to begin with. You said, "Can I bring this on air with me?" Yeah, exactly. So you were already ready to don the gardening hat. So I don't know if it's that much of a punishment.
It's a pretty hat. I thought it would complement my
It does. It accents the blue in Avenue Road Roofing.
We have feedback from our YouTube live chat from Matthew Thee saying should be a surprising week coming up. So definitely interesting in the Division 4A.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you for watching for sure. Who should we be looking out for as well? If it will be a surprising week.
I don't know.
I know. I'm putting it back.
You look directly at me when you asked that question. I'm like, me? I don't know who we're talking about.
While we wait for Matthew to respond, bad case against Junkyard Dogs.
Well, Junkyard Dogs, having just played them, witnessing them firsthand. Also, what I failed to mention before is that I simply love the transition in Rossi's offense so far this season. He's gone from launching primarily deep balls last year when we played him to now marching methodically, taking advantage of a defense and setting them up for the deep shot. So I'll take Junkyard Dogs all day in this one, and I think they're a team trending right now.
I do agree with you on this. The one thing though is I think this may be a trap game for them. I think that Simon struggles paint a picture of of Bad Case being weaker than they are necessarily. That being said, it still won't be an easy match for Bad Case, but it has potential to fall into trap game scenario.
Simo has that heavy hitter's chance because he throws such a nice deep ball, but it's something that he relies on too often. And I think just in this particular matchup, having those 3 deep safeties, which I mentioned beforehand, and him throwing into the teeth of their defense is a recipe for disaster. Honestly speaking.
Okay, no buddies against the Aztec Sasquatches.
So I'm going to have to take the Aztec Sasquatches to prevail and win their first game of the season in this one. I just think this team is very talented, despite the kind of depreciation they get on this show, which is deservedly so far in the young season. But I think it's going to have to turn eventually, and this is going to be the week for them.
I've been saying that in Division 3 about Prestige Worldwide, and it still hasn't been the case, by the way, so take that with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. But I do agree with you that
I do it in my Division 5 predictions for Hot Boys Hotline every week. I keep picking them because I figure this has to be the week they win, and yet they keep disappointing me every week.
If I had a poker hand, I'd have 3 of a kind. Big L's.
Yeah, that was considered also one of the punishments in Division 3 was to make Justin wear a Hot Boys Hotline.
Oh, I thought it was play on our roster for a week.
Okay.
Let me know if that happens.
The commission against Gotham Knights.
Oh wow, good game! Good game right here. Two very sturdy defenses. The commission is just playing some very good football right now. They're playing basically playoff caliber football early in the season. I'll take the commission to continue to prevail in this one. Gotham Knights are always a good team, as we mentioned. I just think that the matchups kind of favor the commission right now.
We have feedback from Matthew C. saying, I don't think the Aztecs will win this week, talking about the previous game.
So Matthew,
they're on like about a 45-second delay, so that's why it might come in a little bit slow.
And think that you play for the nobodies. Can we get confirmation if Matthew plays for the nobodies?
Let's find out.
In the meantime, just we'll recap that last game. Les Malouds against No Name.
Yeah, so I'm going to take Les Malouds to win a defensive matchup here. We don't know who their quarterback's going to be. It might be one of the 3 guys. It might be a new guy. But the team's still going to be good regardless, so I'll take Malou to play.
That would be a cool gimmick, playing an entire FPF season with a different quarterback
quarterback each week. It would be bonkers, man. It would be really cool.
I think you'd need to be deep enough that like everyone on the roster would have to play quarterback, so if you win a lot come playoff time, you have those options.
There's one team I think that could actually pull it off, and it's a team that we're going to talk about in our next segment of this next part of the show, and we'll discuss that a little bit further in just a bit.
Is the team named Musical Chairs?
No, but it almost rhymes with that. We'll see. To be determined.
That's it for us for right now. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and jump into 4B. Yeah, we're still trying to figure out who this Matthew C is.
Matthew C, who are you, man? Give us some kind of hint. Reach out to us. Who have you played for? Matthew C, the milk carton man, the mysterious man of this show.
And if you want to go ahead and join Matthew in this conversation, go ahead and tweet GM Kalethris at GMCole44 or Alex Hollowak at AlexHollowak1.
Help us in the search to find out Matthew C.
At Eagle
his true
FPF
identity.
Or the YouTube live chat. Try and get some conversations going.
Yeah, we're definitely open to it. In the meantime, I guess we'll go into the recaps for 4B. The U beat out the Gators 34-25. Give us a little bit of insight into this.
So, first off, some incredible live-action photos taken at the game by
Shout out
Yannick
Yannick Dostin, absolutely.
Yannick Dostin. You can see staff member. You can see them posted on the Flag Facebook page.
At Yan Dostin.
Yeah, and I just think I wanted to mention this last week, so I'll bring it up now. Everyone should go on and read Dostin's article weekly. He's one of the best content writers in FPF, and he produces high-quality writing each week in this division. So go on, give Yannick a hit, and check out his article because he's doing some good stuff.
plays for No Name, by the way.
Matsy does play for No Name.
Yeah. It was a back and forth right now. Does it come down to Dustin White's rushing ability and the runs he made on KSP?
So,
Kevin St. Pierre, for those unfamiliar.
Once again this week, the brothers White put the U on their backs. Dustin produced an incredible 261 combined yards and 5 touchdowns. Okay, and Josh corralled 62 yards and 3 TDs at wideout. So these guys are they're just pulling the U right now to a perfect record so far. KSP is a difference maker at rusher, certainly, but the White brothers prevailed in this game, definitely. And also, it was good to see Shaq Lattimore back for the first time this year for the U.
Shake and bake.
He immediately made an impact with 1 catch, turning it into 48 yards somehow, according to the website.
Hey, you could get negative yardage on a bad snap or a sack.
If somebody can turn 1 catch to 48 yards, it would have to be Shaq Lattimore. And the only way that I kind of picture this happening is that he juked everyone and turned back 8 yards just to show off, and then kind of high-stepped into the end zone afterwards, which...
They got punted to the 1, and then he took it all the way from there.
Oh,
he's got logic.
Beautiful.
Sack.
That just defeated my whole argument. I'm sorry, but my imagery is still a lot more provocative, I think.
I like that. Both these teams were finals teams last year. Who's more likely to repeat, or are they both likely to repeat?
So they're both likely to repeat. I mean, come on. I think there's something to say about the Gators. The Gators are now 1-2, going into a hyped-up matchup with Blue Chips this week. It's going to be a chirpy, heated affair. But I'm not worried about the Gators. This is a team that has the toughest schedule in the division. They're being challenged each week against all the top dogs, and they'll be battle-tested come playoff time. They'll be one of those teams that nobody wants to face. So they both have the ability to...
So I guess for argument's sake, on the other side of that coin, all of the U's opponents right now are 1-2. What's going to happen to them when they face deeper competition?
But the U has played good teams, though, as well. Just because they're 1-2 so far, the U has accounted for 50% of the other team's losses at this point, right?
Okay.
So I don't think the U's opponents are something to smirk to mark negatively their record so far. I think the U is in full force right now, and they're getting stronger each week. So two very, very impressive teams at this point of just juncture in the season.
So there were a lot of close games because another set of impressive teams. Obamacare 34 just lost out to the Mud Dogs. Mud Dogs put up 39 points. Very impressive to say the least, considering Obamacare didn't even have their starting quarterback.
So this is the team that we mentioned before the break. I don't know where Obamacare keeps hitting their quarterback factory, but they seem to continuously produce quarterbacks who step right into their system and achieve immediate success. This has been impressive display within the first 2 or 3 seasons of their short existence within the league, and it's just amazing. I mean, if I was a struggling quarterback, I'd want to go to Obamacare just to rejuvenate my career because everyone's had a great success thus far.
That. On the flip side, this was a big win for the Mud Dogs, but they kind of cruised through the season last year, and then they got upset in the finals by the U. Do you think they've learned from that, considering they're kind of cruising through the season again? So,
I think they've learned a lot. To what extent we'll see as they face more opponents throughout the year and get into the playoffs. But, I mean, they've scored 30-plus games in each game thus far, right? Laurent Dubré is popping off like bacon in a pan right now. He's already got 230 yards and 8 touchdowns. So this is a team.
I love the imagery of your similes, by the way.
I'm just thinking of Saturday morning right now. I'm getting ready for it. So the Mud Dogs are definitely one of the top contenders in 4B, and they look impressive.
And the last set of impressive pairs of teams, Team Ethnik put up 34 points in a losing effort to the Alpha T's, who put up 42. The return of original QB for Alpha T's, Jean Lucier, with the absence of Justin Speed. What can you tell us about this game?
So, first off, kudos to the Team Ethnik for keeping pace throughout the game. I sat here last week and I sort of implied that Alpha Tees would run away with this one, despite your objections saying Team Ethnik is a gritty, competitive bunch and they'll keep for them stride for stride, which they did. However, this week we see the true dividends of the addition of Jean Lucier as a backup quarterback to this team. He stepped in admirably in Jesse Dupree's absence. He threw for 169 yards with 5 TDs to 0 INTs.
There's a lot of quarterback depth on this team too, eh? So there's Jesse Dupree. You have Jean Lucier as well. Brian Mongeau has played quarterback before.
That's a reach.
And Alex David has played quarterback before. It's not a reach. Former Maximum Carnage quarterback. Alex David has played quarterback.
I love Brian Mongeau, and we'll talk about him in just a second as we continue to analyze this game. But I think his impact is far more as a short defender and crossing pattern receiver than as a quarterback.
I'm just saying that they have lots of options.
Yeah, definitely. But if you're going to say this is the Alpha Tees, right? This is a prestigious franchise now. This is a major contender. You're going to have either Jesse Dupree or you're going to have another top-notch quarterback. And Jean Lucier stepped into that role this week, and he did the job, right?
Did Team Ethnik kind of luck out in, even though it was a loss, it was a close game, and did they luck out by only having to play Jean Lucier?
I don't think they didn't luck out because they ultimately lost the game. I think definitely the Alpha T, to be in their groove, need to have Jesse Dupree back as their quarterback. But, the big difference maker in this game was the hitman himself, Brian Mongeau, who stepped up for his team in the clutch with a pick 6 to make the difference in the game and ultimately seal the win. So the one thing you can say about the Team Ethnik in this game is that Benoit Lawyer continued his impressive season by matching Lucier stride for stride. And he hit 7 different receivers in this game. So obviously there's great depth and great balance on the Team Ethnik side. And you know what? They lost by 1 score against presumably the best team in the division. So there's a lot to take from that.
Okay, very, very fair. So in our transition topic in 4A, we talked about the divide between tiers, and we noticed that a lot of them started to range around that 1 and 2 tier, where they were all cannibalizing each other. In 4B, it's a little bit more apparent, where you have the bulk of the teams in either the 3-0 or the 0-3 rankings right now. So there's the big grouping there, and then there's a little bit less in the middle. So who's same as before? Who's poised to rise or drop? Who's pretenders? Who's contenders? Of the perfect teams right now, I say perfect because not everyone has played 3 games. You have Blue Chips, the U, A Squad, Mud Dogs, Get Off My D, and then that little bracket of the Alpha Tees and the Falcons, who are both 2-0 right now. What are your initial thoughts about this group?
I think that this is a sexy group of teams, right? If you're going to look at them, the Blue Chips demolished Jagerbomb this week, and we thought this was going to be probably the game of the week last week, and it turned out it wasn't. I mean, the Blue Chips were just throwing jump balls all game to their talented receivers who just kept boxing out the Jagerbomb defenders like they were little kids, And
interesting, because there's not a lot of size on either team.
There's quite a bit of size on Blue Chips.
Okay.
Maybe there's a bit of a fluctuating roster there. There's always some new pieces coming in, but there's quite a bit of size on Blue Chips, and they play fierce. Like, these guys go up for the ball with intentions of coming down with it, right? So the rest of the teams look great. I think the one team that maybe is like the square peg in the circular hole at this point is the Falcons, simply because we haven't seen them yet, right? So we don't know how high these Falcons can fly at this point.
Oh, very, very excellent. I agree with that. Maybe A Squad as well, still with that little bit of a question because we haven't seen them really, really tested yet. But I do agree with your assessment. Before we move to the 2-1 teams, we have a write-in question.
Yeah, so it's actually advice on equipment.
Oh.
So it goes, any tips on what cleats are best for turf fields? I need new ones, still using my old one from midget football a long time ago. Again, from Matthew, who is very involved in this show.
Okay, no, absolutely. As we said before, if you tweet or message us in, we'll absolutely address these questions.
You want to take this one?
There's a lot of
no
different
metal
schools
studs
of thought.
for one, right?
Yeah, no metal studs are an automatic no.
Not because of the fact that they're bad for turf. They're literally not allowed in
our league. So you, depending on
this is an interesting question.
I think it comes down to your play style more than anything else, because you see that guys like Roshdi, James Floriani, who are quick little bursts of runs, they have the actual those little turf. They're almost like shoes.
Soccer
they're not
shoes.
Exactly. They're not cleats but shoes. So you have that end of the spectrum. I like the molded cleats. I like cleats that go up a little bit higher because I have shitty ankles.
I do as well.
Okay, so
I think what it comes down to also is a question of your health. I had an interesting conversation with Jadaridi in the preseason where he told me that his doctor recommended he switch to those previously mentioned soccer shoes, the ones with the little tacks, simply because the larger tacks kind of plant into the ground more and you absorb more impact into your knees when you make breaks and whatnot. So if you have bad knees, go for the soccer ones. Myself, I'm always kind of like the poor man version. I get my cleats at the discount rack at Sports Experts, or or you go online on Craigslist or something and search for some. So
East Bay as well.
East Bay as well has great value.
Hyman Long might have a pair.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we have a huge community. Check the Facebook wall. There's oftentimes someone selling either brand new or barely used. So depending on your size, you might be in a lot of luck.
But thank you for posing this interesting, refreshing question.
It gives us a little bit of a pause. We get to discuss our preferences. I like the Under Armour highlight cleats that go up a little bit higher. I'm not burning anyone deep, so having that sort of stability really, really helps in my case. So the 2-in-1 teams right now: Obamacare, Team Ethnik, and Game Changers. Interesting that there's only 3 2-in-1 teams, by the way. So I like this assessment of those 3 teams. Do you disagree or agree?
Yeah, a great list of 2-in-1 teams, right? Game Changers kind of, we expected them to be there, and then we didn't because we weren't sure about their roster, but their name value is high. So good to see them there at this point, Obamacare certainly can be considered maybe one of the 3-0 tier teams at this point. Again, that rotating door a bit, flux at quarterback is maybe a little bit of a question mark, but they have the talent to be in that upper division. And Team Ethnik has been one of the major surprises in this Division 4B to start. Very happy to see them thrive at this point.
Yeah, I do agree with your assessment. I also think that the fact that they didn't have that quarterback for the week and they absorbed that loss almost lets them be a wolf in sheep's clothing, that we write them off now because they're not one of the perfect teams, but they went step for step with one of those perfect teams despite not having their main quarterback.
It's always, and that's a very good point, I agree with your assessment on that, it's always good to have guys kind of play in different roles early in the season just to kind of see how they react to that and just to give them some experience, because you might need them very well to play some roles which outside of their comfort zone come later in the year.
So the 1 and 2 teams right now, with a couple of surprises, I think. 1 and 2 teams include Jagerbomb, the Gators, Vicieux, Jays, Sandlot Saints, Mean Machine, STL Cougars, and Sphinx are 1-1-1, but in a division this close, I will count a tie as a loss, so you're in that 1 and 2 grouping.
So 3 teams in this group that I think could very well rise to the upper tier: Jagerbomb, Gators, and Sphinx. Sphinx have that pedigree. They have that championship under the belt from just last year. Gators, like we mentioned, have played incredible teams and have been in every game. They're going to start the winning track very soon. And then there's Jagerbomb, right? And Jagerbomb is like one of those teams, like one week they destroy someone, the next week they get destroyed. They're a little bit topsy-turvy right now. They seem very matchup-based, specifically in terms of who their offense can thrive again. It's very much a short-strike offense. And if you have big, flooding, flat-zone defenders, it seems to present a little bit of a difficulty to Simon Duchesne in his offense. So we'll see.
Yes, Eagle.
Matthew says thank you so much.
Oh.
He's get a new pair for next week.
No. Thank you. We get like 8 viewers watching live, so if I can't say it enough. You keep writing in. We'll keep talking about No Name. I'm sure the rest of your team will love that too. So the 1 and 2 teams. Sandlot Saints with that one kind of with an asterisk, having beaten a previously unknown team to the league and a new team for all intents and purposes. So I think that one is also another one of the asterisks is there.
We're going to give the Expendables a bye this week since it was their first week in the league, but they took a horrific beating to the Sandlot Saints, and hopefully they can turn this around in quick order. And just enjoy the season ahead.
And other teams sitting at 0-3 right now that really need to turn it around: Small Giants, Les Bleus Branleurs, the Vikings, Green Lantern Corps, and the Rancers at 0-2-1.
So we sat here, you and I, last week. Again, I'm referencing last week's conversation, and we praised the Small Giants for being the top undefeated winless team at that point, and they proceeded to go out and lose versus Vicieux. In a game that they absolutely had to win. So I'm not going to say the small giants are underrated anymore until they show us something.
Okay.
I think the team here to put an asterisk on and to watch how they achieve is going to be the Rancers. They sit at 0-2-1. They lost 2 games by a combined 7 points. They played the Sphinx, the Game Changers, and Get Off My D. No slouches at all mid to upper tier teams in this division. They have a difficult schedule throughout the season, but they need to start this week by beating the scrappy STL Cougars. And I think this is definitely a team that can gain some traction.
Yeah, you look at that roster too, and it almost appears like Exist Light. Mm-hmm. So you know that knowledge is there. You know the experience is there. They just need to get those new pieces more involved and comfortable. So we have our predictions. Wow.
Thundering dunk by someone at the Sportera cage.
Yeah.
Are those 10-foot nets? I'm not sure.
So there's both. They have 6 foot and 10 foot.
So our predictions coming up.
6 foot.
We have Small Giants against the U.
Oh, predictions. Small Giants versus the U. Give me the U. Like I said, I am off the Small Giants train until they show us otherwise.
Yeah, so we have no reason to choose otherwise. Sandlot Saints against the Alpha T's. Can the Saints keep it close?
I don't think so. They won 41-0 against a brand new team with no FPF experience. I think the Alpha T's are gonna feast this week against the Sandlot Saints.
Gators against the Blue Chips. Man, the Gators schedule is tough.
The Gators schedule is tough, and the Blue Chips schedule is tough. Yeah, likewise. This is going to be a fantastic game. I mean, the Blue Chips, like we said, first of all, I shook Jordan Mitchell's hand after the game, and I felt myself burning. Like, this guy is on absolute fire so far. Nobody can touch him. He is twice as fast as any rusher that anybody sends at him. But they have a penchant to throw lob jump balls, right? And I think that if you're going to throw a lob jump ball versus Vinny Golano and Osman, those are 2 guys who aren't going to yield to your receivers as much as the Jaegerbomb did. So this will definitely be combative.
Would you say he's en fuego or muy en fuego?
He's muy en fuego right now. And, I don't see that changing anytime soon. But let's see what happens this week. I'd love to see this game if I have a chance to be at the stadium where it takes place.
Jason the Mud Dogs.
Oh, this is going to be Mud Dogs, man. Jays, like we said a couple weeks ago, no Karim Bennett this year. A little bit of a stagnant offense to begin the season. Mud Dogs 3-0. I'll take the Mud Dogs on this one.
Jaegerbomb against Vissure.
Hey, Vissure, surprising win versus Small Giants. We're going to hopefully learn a little bit more about you guys in the upcoming weeks. Give me the Jaegerbombs on the bounce back.
Vikings against Les Bleus Branleurs. 2-0-3 teams right now.
2-0-3 teams. One of you guys is going to win. Please don't tie. I'm going to take the Vikings if Nick Gendron Vallée is present. Why isn't he quarterback? This guy is fantastic.
I think he's over by a few points as the quarterback gap. That would have been, I think, the ideal scenario for this team, but because he is over, it hurts them just that much. But that would have been the best possible scenario.
He's a great QB, but I'll take the Vikings regardless.
Team Ethnik against the Falcons. We get to see who's for real.
Interesting game. This is going to be a telling matchup between 2 teams that have succeeded so far, but yet we don't completely believe in. I think Team Ethnik is going to pull out victorious in this one.
Green Lantern Corps against the Expendables.
Wow. Can you? Wow. The most sarcastic, but also excited. Wow. One of these 2 very struggling teams is going to get the win this week.
This sounds like a really bad video game mashup or something. Green Lantern Corps versus the Expendables.
Green Lantern Corps put up points this week.
They did. They did. They put up points, and I think they'll continue to put up points this week and get their first win of the year.
Rancers against the STL Cougars.
Well, another very close-knit game. STL Cougars have been showing a lot of fight the last 2 weeks. I think the Rancers are going to pull up their first win of the year this week against the STL Cougars, but it'll be a very close game.
Obamacare against A Squad.
Oh, wow. Another good game, eh? I love A Squad. A Squad is a subsidiary a bit of the Wolfpack, which are crossbred
a sister
with
team
Frosty
of
Bronsons.
Frosty Bronsons.
Exactly. So, but there's just something about this game. I think Obamacare is just too much of a polished team, and I think that A Squad showed some flaws in their game this week, despite the win. And Obamacare is going to exploit those, specifically if they have their quarterback back in action for this one.
I like, by the way, that A Squad are a subsidiary of a team that they've been in the league longer than.
And that play in a higher division also. So, but it just feels that way.
It does.
Regardless. Terry Tam is the owner
it's
somehow.
It's the structure, I think.
Yeah.
Game Changers against Mean Machine.
I'll take the game changers right now. Who are? It's two teams going in different directions, right? Mean Machine, we came in week 1. Wow, what a group of guys, and they've just kind of fizzled out since then. And game changers are going the opposite way. So I'll continue with that trend.
And Sphinx against Get Off My D.
Another good game, right?
Yeah.
2 veteran teams. I'm gonna go against my initial intuition. I'm gonna say the Sphinx corral together and pull out the win against to Get Off My D in this one.
So this is one we'll definitely want to follow up on, because I think there's a lot of potential for it to go either way, despite the 3-0 record of Get Off My D.
Exactly.
So what'd you learn this week?
So I learned this week that the NBA All-Star voting structure is complete bogus. It's hooligans, right? You should not have the fans have the same weight as players and sports writers.
Vote for John Scott.
Food for thought. And thank goodness for FPF, and thank goodness that we have professionals voting in the All-Star players.
It's actually a structure between the two, because the inductees actually have pull in who's inducted as well. So anyone who's already in the Hall of Fame gets a vote on who enters as well.
That's as it should be. The people in the Hall of Fame are pretty well qualified to vote on it.
Alex, what did you learn?
I learned that we need a new monitor for headsets so that we can actually hear ourselves. I learned that Lance Daniel is starting the game of the week for Division 6 this week.
The unofficial one has already been posted.
The unofficial one for Division, I think it was 2.
Served with ice against #NR.
That one was posted. For those of you who don't know what game of the week is, basically we have our cameraman extraordinaire, Lance Daniel, go out to the fields once a week. He picks a division, he puts a poll in a Facebook group, all of the games that are available for that particular week. The community gets to vote on which one they want to go ahead and watch. He goes, films the game, edits it, uploads it, and you guys can watch it in your own time. So it's really awesome work. You get to learn a lot if you don't know a lot about the game. You get to see their playbooks. GM hates it because he's never won a game of the week.
Oh, I think I'm like 1-5 or 1-6. To the point where I stopped voting for my teams.
I just want to add in, I think Lance Daniel was an excellent selection for this. He's got a very creative mind, and he does things with the film editing for Game of the Week, which a lot of other people wouldn't think to do. So we're going to see some neat little editing tricks this week. And, Lance Daniel, my boy, I'm glad to see you back.
So with that, it's been another fun week. And as usual, I end the podcast like this.
Thank you to Matthew.